Guys, you're here with Dr. Molly. Hey guys, you're here with Dr. Molly.
And Todd Rowland.
And we're bringing you the podcast, the business side of the pet industries. Today we're here with Denise Heroux, and she is the Ambitious Groomer, and we are excited to talk to her. We saw her classes at PetQuest, and we've had a chance to talk to her. She is an industry expert on policies, procedures, training, why onboarding is so critical, why continuing education matters. And she has really taken her business to a high standard and a high level. And so we're excited to get to talk to her today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
Great. So are we. So tell us a little bit of how you got started in the grooming industry and how you kind of got your business going and, how it's taken off from there.
So I started, I've been grooming 26 years now.
Wow.
I've been grooming a long time. I actually started at our local career center, and they taught grooming along with horses and like pet shop. I had never even known what grooming was. I had short-haired dogs, and it was my least favorite rotation. I hated every minute of it. I didn't like grooming. They would have to find me. I know, right? Epitome of irony.
Yeah.
And they still use me. I'm actually really close to them, and they use me as an example, but I needed a job after high school. I didn't like it. And this was back in the day before no cell phones. So I was flipping through the paper and I saw a grooming position. I'm like, well, I learned how to do it. I need a job. Why not? And they took a chance on me. 26 years ago, it wasn't the same as what it is now. Corporates didn't exist.
Right.
Barely, I think there was like one or two PetSmart. So the grooming industry itself was still really small. And they needed a groomer, and I was lucky to find a place that taught me my finishing work, but it was a very busy salon. And that's very important to the rest of my story because we were 4 groomers, 30 to 40 dogs in a day.
Wow.
And 1 bather. Yeah, we were booked like 2 to 3 weeks out, and we were like East Side Cleveland, which is the affluent area. Everyone,
Okay.
So I learned in a very predominant area like that. So and back then there were no doodles. It was great.
Yeah.
Love doodles. I feel bad for everyone getting into the industry who hasn't had an opportunity to learn on these purebred dogs.
Right.
But yeah, we got very diverse area. So I got to learn, almost all the breeds. People didn't want to have the same breeds.
Yeah.
I was there for about 2.5 years. But it was about 45 minutes to an hour away. And I had found a part-time job in the same city I lived in, and their full-time groomer quit, and it was at a vet clinic. And another part that's is a good foundation to my background is I was the only groomer when I started there. I was there for 13 years, and I had grown it to the point where it was 4 groomers.
Oh, wow.
4 groomers underneath me.
Yeah.
So I've always had a knack for people, I liked, I could keep all of us as a team together.
Yeah.
I was there for 13 years. I'm that typical groomer who had a toxic environment. And the next step was just my own business. And my husband, there were a lot of events that were happening, and he found a place and he pretty much said, oh, this is what you're doing. And he pushed me
Yeah.
over that ledge.
There you go.
And in 2 months we had our location and stuff. And I started with my first one with no clients, no nothing, bare minimum from scratch. And that will be almost 10 years ago in January.
Wow.
Awesome.
So
That's a scary step.
Oh, it was huge. And yeah, it was a lot. I would sit there and cry. I left a really cushiony schedule. I want to say I made 55% because it was a vet clinic, right?
Yeah.
My clientele, I wasn't accepting new clients. I was booked out forever.
And yeah.
Right. And I was working part-time hours with full-time pay.
Nice. Yeah.
And I left that. And then I would sit in my salon and cry for 10 hours because I had 2 people. It was a lot. It was very scary, but that hustle also helped grow it too.
I bet. So, what is your salons and your business kind of look like now?
Oh, it's definitely grown a lot. So, the first year, within the first year, I got my, within the first 6 months, I had hired my first employee, part-time employee. And then after year one, I had 2 full-time employees. And then it sort of has grown, 2.5 years after, or 2 years after that, I purchased my second location. So I've had that one going on 8 years. That wasn't existing, but no employees. I knew the owners. They were actually trying to sell for over 2 years. And when I was doing my build out, so I knew the owners.
Yeah.
You're ready for that second location? I'm like, huh? By the way, never on my radar to own more than one. But I'm a say yes, figure it out later. I'm like, well, I don't know. Sure, why not? What's another challenge?
Yeah.
What's one more thing? And yeah, I purchased that one. That one needed a turnaround. It was just old school, older clientele. Like I said, it was only them two. So I had to figure out how to man that one. A little bit of a different scenario. The people out there weren't real nice, to us. They were slighted. I don't blame them. They were slighted. They didn't realize that their groomers wanted to sell. And then all of a sudden there's new owners. So I get it. And then, yeah, I found a need, let's see, a year and a half ago, I found a need. We groom cats. Only 3 of our groomers, are cat groomers.
Okay.
3 or 4. I think I've grown 1, but there was 3 of us. And a lot of people in the area weren't doing it. And, we were just getting slammed. And I felt really bad for these cats. They weren't in a really good environment for me to be able to do. The dogs barking. We were in a smaller facility. I couldn't find the time. One location's open 7 days a week, and I came home and I told my husband I need a cat salon, and he told me no. And I said, no, I need a cat salon. And he said no. And he said no 3 times. But when I told him the number side, I'm like, listen, you don't need the stuff that you need for dogs. You need a small facility, low overhead. You don't need the electrical, little cages, nothing major. And actually I use it as my office actually, because it's only open 3 days a week.
Oh,
so I use the cat salon as my office sometimes. And 67 days later, I got my cat salon.
So yeah.
Yeah. And it made a lot of sense. It's like 400 square feet. It is my best location as far as profitability goes. The first year we did $82,000. And I don't know if I told you guys any of this really in our classes, but so yeah, this location made over $82,000 first year. We're only open by appointment only, sometimes not even 3 days a week. And yeah, I sold cat hair and made over $8,000 our first year. Cat hair alone, and dirty cat hair alone. So it covered my whole overhead.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, that's amazing.
Yeah. So now we're up to 2 groomers and 1 helper each day at the cat salon.
Okay. Yeah. I know a lot of people who think they want to get started and they don't know how or where. And then their mind just goes to, I have to have the biggest, the nicest, all the equipment at one time. And it's like, you don't have to start that, or that might not be what you actually need. Like, I know we had not even, prior to taking your class, had even thought about a standalone cat salon. And then after hearing your story, it's like, well, our market's kind of the same. We're in a bigger city for our mobiles, but there's really not a lot of cat groomers. There's one salon that 1 day a month they do cats only, but it's just, there's way more of a need than the 1 day a month. And so it's kind of something we've been toying with too. And just finding that specific little niche or something too, it like to stand you out. Like, you are cats only, it's stress-free, it's quiet, it's no dogs, it's, I don't know, that's just a great concept that, people don't even think about.
They don't. And it was funny. Everyone thought I was like this big innovative thinker. No, I actually wasn't. I know a few different cat only locations, and in my career, I've done competitions and stuff like that. And I met one who owns one in Pittsburgh. And she was my judge for a Rescue Me competition when I did it through IJA. And that's sort of what got because I knew she existed. And I'm like, well, this could be a thing.
Right.
So yeah, and then there is another person in our area that was a cat only too. But everyone thought I didn't reinvent the wheel. They exist. Everyone
Yeah.
thought it was the weird. We had such weird feedback on it. It was so funny. I had on like the local Facebook pages, I really hope they last. I'm like, oh, just you wait.
Yeah.
Just you wait. And I'm like, you build it and they will come. And it owning a business is all about finding those little niches and trying to reinvent yourself. And I'm actually learning that now 10 years in. So a little bit more in depth in a different way. So yeah, I love
That's
it.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh goodness. I thought we had all our voices off. But
So
we took, 2 of your classes at PetQuest in June, and we really enjoyed them. And we thought we were good on the policy side until we sat through your class. And then it's like you think about all the things that come up. And if you're not in your salon every day because you have multiple locations, or you get mobiles, or we're expanding into grooming and
boarding and daycare.
Yeah. And
Oh,
so we're building out that space right now. So that's taking our time. We're there a lot, meeting contractors, getting all that thing. And so the policies really come in handy, if we can't answer our phone right that second. Just like Molly brought up earlier, we had a power outage and we didn't have a policy for that. How long do we wait before we call the pet parents, and so on and so on. And so it's everything imaginable you need to have a policy for.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I learned everything in my classes. I was that person who learned, firsthand and the hard way. I made the mistakes. When I started my business, there wasn't a lot out there for pet industry. Like, I love that you guys are doing this podcast. This is great. One of the reasons why I started speaking so a little quick thing about the whole speaking thing. I actually didn't want to speak on employees at all. When I hired Mary Aquendo, I had this idea of how to grow your own groomers because the shortage back then.
Right.
And I'm very efficient. I don't need to hire groomers, really. I can grow my own. And I had this whole idea of getting other business owners to grow their own. And as I was working with her, she's like, Denise, you need to speak on employees. I'm like, no, I don't. I don't want to. I want no part of it. And she's like, but you got it. And I'm like, I don't care. That's not what I want to do, because that wasn't in my brain at the time. And then the more I started embracing it, I'm like, okay, fine, but I learned the hard way on a lot of those things. And honestly, I just got sick and tired of repeating myself over and over and over again.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
That's kind of where we got. We have a handbook that we give out and stuff, and it has our policies and everything in it. But there was really no enforcement of those policies. It's like we didn't actually have a discipline structure so it was a lot of someone would be late 15 times, and we would do a write-up and go over it, and it's like, but there was no ramification, so they still just kept coming and coming. So that's something that we've recently implemented, kind of almost like a 3-strike rule for a lot of our policies. And it's different now. We got some backlash from it, but it also seems like they're listening and they're caring more. We haven't had an accident that was unavoidable. We haven't had the tardiness we'd been having. So just even though you don't want to do it necessarily, and you don't want to have an enforcement policy, just having that just helps everything flow better too.
It does. And I struggled really hard with leaving the vet clinic and having people above me. It was really easy, even though I was the one who I ran the whole grooming department. The vet clinic didn't care. It was the typical, you're just there to offer something a little bit more. The groomers pretty much ran it. I'm the one who sort of took charge and organized it the way that I did. And I struggled hard when I first opened, I'm now that person who has to come up with everything. I'm the person who makes the rules. And it was so easy for me to just sort of, when I said them, not follow them through. And it gave me that backbone to be able to say, no, when someone comes in, these are the expectations. And it alleviated a lot of stress and mental anguish just by doing that with owning the business.
Yeah. That's nice.
I even think if you're a one-person show, you should have a handbook for yourself. That way, you set the boundaries with your clients and what you're going to do and what you're not going to do. Like, I'm sorry, it's against our policies to do this. Like, just to have something that you can refer back to and stick to. Like, when I started, this is what I said I was not going to do. And I think and then especially if you start growing, you already need to have those in place before you hire that first employee. And I know a lot of people, they'll like, oh, it's just me and so and I don't need them. And I'm like, no, that's when you really do need them. You hired that friend that you used to work with. You definitely need them.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And that's sort of how it was. Like, we're all adults. We know all how to clean. We all know how to be responsible. Wrong answer. I have a code of conduct that was because of my second employee that was in her 50s that would throw things and mistreat. And I don't even say mistreat, but she wasn't rough with the animals, but loud, right? You could tell that frustration. It was definitely not that energy. And I'm like, really, I have to do this for someone, you don't think about it. And that was the things you don't think about.
Yeah. And another thing that really hit home for us was when you were talking about not just policies, but your procedures, like your standard operating procedures, like literally how to sweep a floor, how to do laundry, because you do take for granted that everyone knows how to do that and everyone knows, but they're not going to do it to the standard that you need. And then they're not going to feel trained, and then like they don't know your expectations. So just having everything clear cut and how to do it, what's expected, what's not acceptable, I think, and going through that from the beginning, those are things that we didn't really have in place. Like I said, we had the policies, but not so much the procedures. And so we've been working on that. So when we get to our new space, we can easily implement that with anyone we hire now. Like, this is how, this is why, here's where you can find it if we're not here. And then there should be no confusion. And then they're not confused and sitting there wondering what they should be doing.
Correct. And as you grow, I haven't had to train a new receptionist for a long time, a full-time receptionist. So like our evening receptionist, it dies down a lot in the evening. So there's not as much hustle and bustle and stuff like that. So, I had to go ahead and I have this new receptionist and all the things. We add so many as business owners. We pick all these little things that we change throughout, even on a daily basis, right? Oh, this isn't working. Let's sort of add this, or let's tweak how we say this, and over time, all those little things add up. And I have she's younger, and I have a new receptionist, and I'm like, holy crap, this is a lot. Like, this is a lot to teach somebody.
Yeah.
Or for someone to comprehend, because as much as it's spelled out, it's all those little details. But they were so small as we grew. And now all of a sudden I'm training someone new. I'm like, oh, this is a lot. And now I'm having to train a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, I can't expect them to remember all this or figure that, so now I actually have to like break that down a little bit more. And it's a little bit of a different process even now for training and that. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's
That's
nice
a
to
good
have it.
thing to notice, though, that you don't want to overwhelm and you don't want to just too much at one time. And so now what's one thing that you found that has been like most beneficial or most helpful to you as a business owner in training and setting up, and also like that you can give to the industry as kind of like a little tidbit?
Oh gosh, there's so many. And I thought about this when you sent over the questions, and I'm like, gosh, there's so many different ones. But I think be who you are, right? Like when I did, and this is just, I want to give groomers that chance to be individuals. Your business can stand out. There's not necessarily one way to do everything. And that's why I started getting into the business side of things and being more comfortable with it, because there wasn't a lot out for pet industry business, right? I had two speakers. One I had the booth next to over at, they own Retro Stylist Wear, but then they also own a whole bunch in Indiana.
Right.
Brett Wilson, he was one of the speakers, and Chris Berry, that was it. And then everything I looked for outside was non-industry specific. And really not even service industry specific. So I struggled because I always copied those and then I would fail. And then I realized over time, I'm like, no, I just have to take what feels right with me and roll with it and sort of hodgepodge everything I'm learning.
Right.
So I think being fluid and open minded to everything and stand behind is the biggest thing I would like to give to anybody. And that's grooming, competition grooming, business owners, anything in life. Just stand behind how you see it. Be open, be humble, but it's not a one size fits all for everything.
No, it's definitely not. And that whole being open thing, that's a good point, because we come across so many either business owners or even just groomers that have been somewhere for so long and they're not really open to new products, new styles, new suggestions, new branding, anything, well, this is how I've always done it and it's worked fine. And, and some people are okay with fine, but you also want to grow and adapt. And
that's one thing I've really noticed in the industry is the groomers want to involve in all this stuff, but there's so many salon owners, whether it be corporate or individual, that they're stuck in their ways, but yet they wonder why they're having a hard time staffing. And it's like, one of my favorite things is that we met someone and they were just having such a hard time retaining employees, but she made everybody work every Saturday. And we have people that work Saturday, but it's because it fits their schedule better, not ours. And we're like, and they're like, well, how are you continuing to grow through the staffing shortage? And we're like, well, because, we have goals that our employees have to meet, but we try to work around their schedules. And it was just like, well, I have to be open on Saturday. Well, maybe, but does every single groomer have to work every single Saturday? Like, you're going to lose a good groomer because of, I've said this before, soccer mom wants to go to her kid's game one Saturday. And so many people are just so set. And every industry I've ever been involved in, you're constantly evolving and changing to keep up. And in this industry, it seems like so many people are stuck.
It's like a comfort, right? It was, oh, this is how I was taught. This is what I came from. Without even getting into debate or anything about 1099 W-2. I mean, that's sort of where you get that. Thought I set the ringers off. But sorry. So that's, everyone is set in their ways, the 50% thing, and then the industry's in this really weird funk, right? We have you guys taking the class. My classes are getting bigger, which is amazing. When I took them, they were small. I love watching them grow. I love seeing people eager to try new things or take into consideration new things. But those old school ways is not generationally, and I speak about generations and stuff in my classes, like you guys know, these newer generations that are coming through the pipeline that are workers, that doesn't fly. You can't use those old school methods. And without evolving, we're also hindering the next generation of groomers, and they don't want to do it, or they're, so when I speak and I do the whole thing, it's twofold. It's not only to help business owners, but it's also to give better places for employees to work for too. But this industry has always had that problem.
That's one reason. Yeah, we really wanted to start this because, the Facebook groups are helpful. But what I find in there is people ask such a simple question and you have this whole group of people who attack them. Then the other people start attacking those comments. And it's like her original or his or her original question never was answered. They're probably even more confused now. And so I was just like, we need to create a positive environment for people to be able to ask questions. And we're very open, like it's not our way or the highway. Like we're always changing things. Like you said, I mean, all the time you have to constantly change things.
You need a strong foundation to fall back on, or you don't have a business structure. But all the things in between that foundation and where your goals are is very fluid and open, and it can go in so many different directions. When I started, I had no business background. I was sort of sink or swim. My husband helped to an extent, but then he had his full-time job and I had no paycheck coming in. So I was sort of sink or swim and having to figure this stuff out. I would have never told you 10 years ago that I have 3 locations, 30 employees, and that we're actually looking at 2 more locations. I would have never in a million years, but if I wasn't fluid in everything, I wouldn't have grown to where I'm at, and I really enjoy it. So yeah, the industry is just really weird.
Yeah.
It's a weird industry. It really is. I hope we'll overcome this hurdle, and it's looking up, stuff like this, the podcasts that are coming out, people who are actually caring about making it more professional.
Yeah. And we've noticed too at a lot of these expos and conferences and things, they are adding more classes on non-technique stuff about how to preserve your body, how to decompress mentally, retirement, building a better team, policies and procedures. They're focusing more on the longevity of the career and the business side and not just skill work. So I agree. I think we're definitely evolving as an industry. We just need to keep it up.
Yes, and that's where it gets a little tricky, as far as finding the proper information too, like you said with the Facebook groups, right? Like everyone has an opinion, but they're really, when it comes to the business side, there are facts.
Yeah.
There's actually facts to follow, and laws and legalities. And it's just making everyone aware of what those actually are too.
That's true.
Yeah, it's like some people, spend the $300 and get you an accountant or something and go over some stuff. Facebook is not your resource for everything. And it's just like, just see so much bad information out there. And I know people are just trying to be helpful, but it's like you're not when you're spreading more and more information that's not
plus,
correct.
and some of this stuff varies by state, by city, by county. There's just different rules for everyone. And it's not a one size fits all.
I know not too long ago, we seen one where it's in a mobile group and they're like, well, where do you dump your, I'm fisting to start out on the 1st of August or whatever. And where do you dump your gray water tank? Well, everybody, there's 50, everybody has different answers. It's like, you have to find out your actual city. Cause like the city our salon's in, you can do pretty much whatever. They don't care. But our mobiles, you have to go into a certain drain, car wash, and it's just, but yeah, somebody will read that's in a whole different state. Oh, they just dump it in their yard. Okay, we're good. And then wonder why they're getting a fine 3 months later. And
yeah, we know about that. We actually had a girl that forgot to turn her tank closed and was driving, and someone from codes was just behind him. And so we get an email and a call, and they're like, you're violating the policy. And we had looked the policy up when we got started, and then our city had no policy on it. And so we're like, okay, well, if you could just direct us to that policy, because we're not aware of it. And they didn't. So then a month later, we get an email with the new policy, and it's like, please share this in the grooming community. And, so things change, but if you don't know what you don't know. So you have to always be looking for that too, to see what's next and what you need to follow. And yeah, you can't just go, because prior to that, I would have been like, no, we don't have to, but had it not come up.
Yep. And you have to be willing to it goes to that humble thing, right? You have to know that you're not going to know everything. And I struggled with that a lot too, was, oh no, this is how it is. And, and things change. Like I said, with my handbook, when I give out my handbook, hey, don't take that for what it is, because that's an old one. Things have changed. You need to look it up. Each state is different, and their requirements and things like that. So yeah, you at least have to educate yourself for those things too.
Yeah. And you can't take for granted that your employees, when you hand them the policies and procedures, actually read them, even if you pay them. So we do once a quarter, we go over it.
Anything that's changed, and it's just like, here you go, a fresh copy, ask questions. And another thing we've started, because as far as the whole employee growth and changing and adapting, one thing we learned, we like Dave Ramsey and his systems and things, but he has a, entre leadership book, and it talks about in there, asking your employees for one positive and one negative thing since, a certain amount of time. And for us, we try to do it quarterly. And nobody wants to bring up the negative things, and we try to be open and approachable. But when it comes down to it, if you're the business owner, no matter how good of a relationship you have, you are intimidating, you're unapproachable, it produces anxiety. So now we've kind of made it mandatory. They have to present something. It can be something as little as, I don't like my foot mat that I stand on. You know, it's just,
Right.
but you have to come up with something instead of just saying, oh, it's great, everything's fine, because if we can't change what we don't know about.
Yes.
And our groomers kind of came up with, and we think it's a great idea. So now we're really trying to push it, is they have their own little network where they talk about, and they have one spokesperson. So, because, you know, if I'm not sure what class we heard this in, but if it's one person with an issue, it's probably that person. If it's more than one person, it's probably, that's when you need to start looking at you as the owner, as the business, and so now they can get together and talk about issues or things that are going on. And a lot of times it'll be something to where one of them is like, oh, well, try this, and it fixes it. And then sometimes it's things where it may be a communication thing with a customer that we need to fix, but there's one spokesperson who's comfortable coming to us, and we don't know who even said it or who has a problem with it. And that's really helped. Since we've implemented that, we've had 2 or 3 things that have, been adding up that we had no idea about. And that it was as simple as changing the wording in our confirmation messages for one of them. And like, it took all the stress and anxiety that all these groomers had that we didn't know about,
Yeah.
just by not having to come to us directly. So, that's a good thing too. That's a way that's helping us grow too, to kind of create more of that positive environment.
It is, and it's not just you. It's hard. I bang my head against the wall almost every day because they understand that I can't change things I don't know, but no one wants to speak up.
Yes.
And I am realizing I hired a manager right around PetQuest, and it's beautifully because they're going to her. She's not mom, right? You're
Right.
not the
Yeah.
parents, and you're not the scary owner, and you're the cool aunt.
Yeah.
And you're the cool aunt here. And it's really funny, after she got into that position, the things that she heard, and she's like, Denise doesn't even know about these things, right? And it was just left to their own vices. That's what happens. It's society. That's the way human beings are. And I love that, just having a spokesperson, because you're not promoting someone to a lead. You're not, maybe necessarily needing to add a manager, but you're giving them a voice that is sort of silent, that they don't have to feel weird and nervous about bringing up. And that's really cool. And you find that's how you grow your business, is when you hear these things. I mean, some of the things that I started to hear in the last month or two was, I changed it in 2 hours, if that. And one of them was the way we scheduled families with 2 dogs. They're like, can we have a half hour longer? I'm like, yeah. And apparently this has been a thing for years. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, and in 10 minutes, I literally changed it and said, okay, guys, receptionist, here's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Fixed what I could. So that's great though. I love that. But hearing all those little things really do add up over time.
Yeah, they definitely do.
So where do you see you taking your business next? I know you said you're looking at possibly 2 more locations, and are all your locations relatively close, or?
So yes, currently they are. They are about, I'm trying to think miles wise, they're about 20 minutes away from each other. The cat salon is central. So when we opened the cat salon, we told all of our cat grooming clients we will no longer be grooming at our locations, the dog locations, that if they want us to continue doing their dog or their cats, they have to come to the central location. And we did find a spot that was pretty central to both of them.
That's nice.
Yeah. So then we only do nail trims at those. Now the 2 locations, the one we're looking at is a little bit farther away, probably about 30-35 minutes. But it's an existing with employees, and I've never taken that on. The other one actually happened to pop up on Facebook, and it's in South Carolina. So yeah, a little far from Ohio.
Yeah.
That's okay. Because have you guys heard of Chris Berry, or have you watched any of her stuff?
She actually, I did my dissertation on turnover and pet grooming, and she was quoted quite a bit in it.
Oh, I love Chris. She is just amazing. And she's always, the first time I went to one of her seminars, I'm like, that's it. That's what I've been looking for. Cause I always felt like this odd person out. Like I wanted more. I didn't want to be just myself. Anyways, I love Chris. And she was actually the one when I first did it. She had her at the time 5 locations, 3 were in Kentucky, 2 were in Florida. I'm like, that's a thing.
Yeah.
Like, that's really cool. And I'm like, if she can do it, I can do it. So I've always been open. Actually, we were thinking Arizona to have a nice winter place.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Oh, we have to go out there. Yeah.
Yeah, Cleveland area, you know.
Oh,
Oh,
Yeah, there we go.
there we go.
there we go.
Well, that's cool. 'Cause her first idea when we first opened was we did mobile first, but she's like, I want to have mobiles in Florida too. And
Because we live in Tennessee, so our winters are not terrible, but the older I get, the more I hate them. And so my goal was, I'll start mobile and I'll have 2 or 3 here, and then I'll move to Florida and do 2 or 3 there. And that's not the direction we've taken, but the more people we meet and see that, having them in different areas and states, and when you have the foundation set up, you don't have to be there all the time and stuff. And so those are things that we're really trying to work on too. So it's exciting to hear that that's, something you're looking at as well.
So we'll share all your social media stuff in the notes, but where's the best place for people to find information about you?
Currently it's Facebook, the Ambitious Groomer. Either you can find me privately, which is really easy to find, because of the fact of my last name. I'm really easy to find. Or my Ambitious Groomer group is the easiest way to connect business-wise currently. I have a few things in the works that will hopefully get a website launched beginning of next year and stuff like that to make it a little bit easier. But honestly, private message, and I welcome everybody. Everyone's friends. We're all in this together.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And so, do you have more speaking lined up for the rest of the year we can tell people about?
Yes. So I will be at All American. I will be at Super Zoo the following, like, we go right to Super Zoo. Sort of. I come home for Monday, and then I leave Tuesday. I will be at Hershey. I'm excited. Don't tell anyone, I haven't started it yet though. I have a 4-hour certificate course for business. Yeah, for business. It'll be their Thursday classes at Hershey. Pet Pro Classic, and then I maybe at New England and Fun in the Sun. And then in between those, I know I brought it up a little bit, but I'm also one of the onboard. Karina Stamworthy and I are the onboard directors for the Barkley Pet Pro Cruise. So we will be going to Bermuda in September, and hopefully we'll have a little bit of speaking on there. And Terry DiMarino is our speaker. So we're super excited. This is our first time we're doing it. We're going to be offering 2 cruises through Barkley, and her and I are in charge of pretty much everything.
Wow. Yeah.
So yeah.
And we were looking into those. Those seem like, you get the fun and the business, and who doesn't love a cruise? So
yes. So Bermuda is in September. We will be announcing, I can sort of announce it. It's okay. They haven't, she's just getting everything finalized. We'll be doing January. Will be 2 places in Mexico. So we'll be announcing that soon. And then September. So we're going to try and do a fall and a winter one each year.
Forward. That's awesome. Yeah. So, well, I think that's
we've appreciated
all I
time
got.
today.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Thank you. And we will get with you with everything, and we're excited to air this, and just thank you for sharing everything you did today.
Anytime. It was nice to be here, and I appreciate you guys thinking of me.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you.